Do you want to improve your art, but you're not too sure how? Nah, not really. Wait. What? Let me guess. You want me to draw every day? Okay, I get what you mean, but here's the thing. You've probably heard that more than enough times, and technically, while it does help your art, that is not what I'm going to be talking about today at all. Because today, I'm going to be giving you over 30 tips to improve your art and give it the most epic upgrade ever. And some of these tips I have never told anyone before, so get ready for some secrets. And I'm also going to be working on a brand new drawing today as well. Hint, hint, it may be related to Demon Slayer. And now, here's how you can actually improve your art. Starting with step number 1, change your name to Leonardo da Vinci. No, I'm kidding. Or am I? Tip number 1 is actually to go ahead and make sure you're using the right type of pencil. So you know how graphite pencils have these numbers and letters on them, but nobody ever bothered to explain what it means? Well, it turns out it's actually super simple. H essentially stands for hardness and B stands for softness. And the main difference is the way the pencils smudge and how they appear on the paper in terms of the intensity and darkness. Personally, I'd recommend using the B pencil to make drawings that need blending and using the H pencil underneath watercolor to work on your sketch because it doesn't smudge as easily. And with that, my second tip is to use the right type of paper. Now, printer paper is great for pencil sketches and generally light layers of art supplies, but it's not great for layering or working on detailed illustrations. So personally, I would not recommend using printer paper. But then if you're not using printer paper, what are you supposed to use? When you're starting out, I know it can feel overwhelming. Trust me, it definitely is. But at the same time, you don't have to get a lot. If you're someone who likes sketching, just start off with drawing paper. If you like painting, get some watercolor paper. If you need something thick, you can opt for heavy drawing paper, or if you're not sure what medium you're going to use, you can always get a mixed media sketchbook or mixed media paper. Aside from that, just check what works best for each sketchbook brand, and if you like markers, I would recommend the Ohuhu marker pad because it has this special paper where the ink doesn't bleed through. There's also a couple more things to consider, like the texture of your sketchbook. Do you want it to be smooth or grainy? The color of your sketchbook, do you want it to have a warm tone or a cool tone? And also just the size of your sketchbook, do you want it to be big or small? But you don't have to figure out everything at the same time. I've been drawing for 7 years and I'm still figuring things out. Just take your time and go with the flow. And now for my third tip, I personally believe that mechanical pencils make life easier. For example, this one here has a rotating lead mechanism that keeps the pencil sharp. These are my favorite for drawing. This one is super thick. These come with different colors. This one acts like a normal thick pencil and it has a mini sharpener at the back. And this one is just a super cheap one that I got at the store. And you have so many options. Plus, you don't even have to use a sharpener. And I don't even know how, but the lead refills that I buy, they never seem to run out. So all in all, I love mechanical pencils. And now tip number 4 is to know the difference between acrylic, water, and alcohol-based markers. Acrylic markers are more opaque and they have a matte finish. Alcohol-based markers are great for blending and they are absorbed by the paper. And water-based markers, I personally like using them for calligraphy. You can use them for drawing and painting, but I like using them for calligraphy. And the key takeaway here is just to know the strengths and weaknesses of each of these markers, so that way you can pick one that suits your drawing style, or of course you could combine them and use them together. And now we're moving on to the drawing category. So let me ask you a question. If you made a drawing like this, in 30 days, would it transform into a drawing that looks like that? Well, maybe, but in order to do that, you need to follow tip number 5, which is to use references. Using references taught me how to draw hands, outfits, hair, shading, coloring. Like, let's go back to my very first sketchbook and look at the claws that I drew here. Yeah, that's because I wasn't using any references, so I didn't know what to do or even how to improve. Compared to now, there is definitely a glow up. By the way, did you know you can take photos of yourself for references? It takes just a second and you already have so much inspiration. Just be wild. The crazier, the better. And the best part is, after you use references to learn, you'll be able to master how to draw specific things, and then you can just draw from imagination and your art is going to look absolutely stunning. Time for tip 6. This is a very obvious tip, but it is also the best tip, which is to break it down into as many shapes as you can. The easier it is to look at, the easier it is to draw. That's right, when you're drawing anatomy, try to break it down into as many shapes as you can, and I like to use a combination of circles, quadrilaterals, an upside down pentagon. I also use lines for the arms and the legs, and circles for the elbows and the knees as well. There are so many different methods and techniques out there, and it can become overwhelming, but make sure to just experiment and keep doing what works for you. Also, another tip is that when you're drawing dynamic poses, make sure to draw in the line of movement first, so that way it makes it super easy to know where to place the shapes and how to draw the pose so it looks very natural and flowy as well. By the way, if you'd like to find out more about how I draw bodies and anatomy, feel free to check out my latest video where I walked you guys through my process from start to finish and showed you different poses. I'll make sure to link it in the description of this video, and if you've already seen it, do I even have to say it? You are amazing! Thank you so much! And now it's time to summon my art supplies and start the drawing process. Today we'll be drawing Tanjiro and Nezuko in my style. Surprise! I know, crazy right? I don't usually draw anime characters, but today is one of the days where I'm feeling a bit wild, and we're doing it because these guys are iconic. So starting it off, I drew in the line of action to mark out where I want my characters to be, and now I'm drawing in the shape so that I can see where I should place each of their body parts. That sounded weird, but I am not Victor Frankenstein. Unless I am, but I'm not. Okay, but now let's get serious and lock in for tip number 8, which is to understand the trick to draw fabric folds. So let me show you what I learned. First of all, when you're drawing skirts or dresses, draw a line going down and then make it very squiggly, like make random squiggly lines like this, and then connect it together. Now draw 2 lines coming from each of these little squiggly curves. And finally, underneath each section, shade in an area with a black pen. And boom! Now you have a skirt. It's so easy, right? The more you do it, the better you get. The second thing I learned is that when you're drawing very loose clothing, make sure to add a lot of lines to indicate there's movement, because loose clothing will look flowy. It's not going to look stiff or straight. So add some curves, lines, bumps, and just try to make it look like it has movement. Also, I like to go in with these random lines and shapes after I've done the outline of the top. I use like very random shapes that look kind of like this, but when you place a lot of them on the clothing, it looks kind of natural and organic. It also just helps to take a second to pause and think about where it would make sense to place these lines, like for example, fabric folds near the elbow and near the seams and things like that. And that is essentially how I draw fabric. It's kind of like a fake it till you make it process because I'm still on the journey of learning as well. So I did a thing. I cracked the code to drawing curly and wavy hair, and you will not believe how insanely, and I mean insanely, easy it is. Ever since I was young, I've loved seeing characters with curly hair on TV, but I could never draw them, even though they were cartoon characters, until I figured out a super duper easy way to draw curly hair. And today I'm going to teach you my trick. So start off by drawing a simple squiggly line. Now connect a line to each side of the squiggle. So go one on the left, one on the right, and another one on the left. Kind of like that. At the very end, give it a curve. Now draw some more lines within these to imitate hair strands. And finally, shade in the sections and boom, you have wavy hair. And if you want to make it look more curly, just draw the squiggle more closely and compact, and that way you can make your hair look more curly, more wavy, more coily, and it's so easy. It's actually so easy. I really wish I learned this earlier. And the crazy part is no one actually taught me. It was just something that I kind of figured out, and when I did, it was definitely a very shocking moment of realization. Also, a bonus tip is after you've drawn in the curl, if you want to make it look more flowy, just add in a bunch of loose hair strands on the left and the right, and that way it'll look super natural and super cool. And now let me tell you something else I struggled with as a beginner, which is knowing where to place the eyes, nose, and the mouth on the face, because no matter how I did it, it never felt as easy as it should be. That's when I figured out what guidelines are. So now what I do is, I draw a line going from ear to ear and one going from forehead to chin, and that helps me with knowing where to place all the features. Tip number 11 is to draw both eyes together at the same time, so that way you can make sure that whatever you do to one eye, you're doing to the other eye as well. Because when I was a beginner initially, I used to draw one eye and I could never get the second eye to match, but by drawing them together at the same time, you can keep checking as you go and make sure it turns out amazingly. And now tip number 12 makes a tiny change, but I think it goes a fairly long way, and that is to not draw eyelashes going in one direction, but rather make them curvy and make them go in both directions. So when you're drawing at the front of the eye, make them go at the left, and at the back, make them go to the right. It's a very subtle detail, but I feel like it just makes the eyelashes look a lot more natural and a lot more organic. Then again, it's completely up to you and the style that you're going for. Now I have a question. Have you ever struggled with drawing noses? Like, you're not sure where to position it, and also for some reason it looks kind of flat. Well, that's when I figured out you can use circles to draw in noses, or a singular nose in this case. And what I do is I use the circle to mark out where I want the nose to be, and from there I can add in the nostrils and the bridge of the nose, and it's just super duper easy. By the way, how I use the guidelines is I draw the nose and the mouth on top of the vertical line, and I draw the eyes above the horizontal line, and that helps me to draw a face in my style. And just like that, our sketch is officially complete. And now let's talk about my tips when it comes to outlining your drawings. Starting off with the very first tip in this section, which is to lighten your sketch before you outline it. Now, technically you do not have to do this, but it's something that I personally enjoy doing because it's so much easier to see your sketch when it's lighter. You can either use a kneadable eraser or just a normal eraser as well, whatever works for you. And just to kind of demonstrate, here are two cubes. I'm going to lighten the one on the right and leave the one on the left just as it is. But the main difference here is that when I'm outlining, it's so much easier to keep track of what I've already outlined and how my drawing is looking with the cube on the right compared to the cube on the left, just because of the contrast between the sketch and the outline. Again, it's a super simple thing, but it does have the potential to make your outlining process just that much better. And with that, let me take you to the next tip, which is to know what fine liner works best. Now here's something that I randomly discovered over the years, and that is the fact that water-based fine liners tend to work amazingly with alcohol-based markers. And this applies the other way around as well, because alcohol-based fine liners also work amazingly with water-based ink in markers. And once I figured that out, it made my life so much easier. But at the same time, water-based with water-based doesn't work as well, and alcohol-based with alcohol-based also doesn't work as well. Then again, it will differ with brands. But what if you want to outline your drawing and then use watercolors and alcohol markers on top? Or what if you don't know what medium you want to use to color it in? Well, in that case, I would recommend these Ohuhu drawing pens, and this is not sponsored by the way, I just genuinely love these drawing pens so much. The set comes with a lot of marker sizes, and I've used these a lot over the years, and from what I've noticed personally, they work amazingly with almost every single art medium. I haven't really experienced any smudging or smearing with these, and I don't really have to wait for it to dry because it does dry pretty quickly, and I would definitely recommend these 10 out of 10. But keep in mind, you can always use what you have at home. Sometimes ballpoint pens or gel pens work great as well, depending on what medium you want to use on top. Just make sure to test it out on a piece of paper with the medium that you want to use before you use it to outline your drawing, because realizing that you used the wrong pen after doing the outlining is genuinely the worst feeling ever, so try your best to avoid that. And now my next tip to upgrade the way that your line art looks is to use a brush pen. Use a brush pen to make random lines look thicker. This adds visual interest and makes your drawing look more detailed and fascinating, and also it's super easy. Just pick a bunch of random lines and make them thick, and immediately your sketch goes from looking okay to looking like amazing. And to add more visual interest, you can grab another marker and outline the entire perimeter of your drawing to give it a very cool effect and make it look like it's almost popping off the page. By the way, did you know that you can give your drawing a soft look just by changing the color of the pen that you use to outline it? To test out that theory, we're going to be using a black pen, a yellow pen, a blue pen, and a purple pen to draw some circles, and we're going to color in the inside with a skin tone kind of color. And as you can see, each of these circles looks so different just because of the color that we used to outline it. And just like that, we are officially done with the line art and the drawing already looks so cool. I cannot wait to color it in. So with that, let's get started on the next section, which is going to be all about coloring. Now, first things first, let's talk about the color wheel and color theory. So we do know about complementary colors, we know about analogous colors, we know about cool tones and warm tones to every single color. And there are so many cool ways you can use color theory to help you decide color palettes. You can go with analogous, complementary, or two analogous and one complementary, and you can just kind of mix it up and do a bunch of different things. It's really cool to learn about color theory and to understand it. But if you don't really have time for that, a super simple trick that I would recommend is just to pick color palettes that consist of 3 colors, because when you do that, it is super duper easy to just get something that looks really cool. For example, here are some of my favorite 3 color palettes, and each of them has a vibe. Like this one right here, it gives me like soft teddy bear pastel aesthetic. This one here gives me like rock star vampire kind of aesthetic. And the final one is super simple. We have purple, a dark purple, and we have an opposite color, which is yellow, and it gives me kind of royal and regal vibes. And I love doing it this way because you don't have to put too much thought into choosing your colors. Like in a nutshell, I would just say pick a vibe and then pick 3 colors. If you pick 3 colors, there's basically no way that you can go wrong, unless you find a way. But nah, it's okay. 3 colors and you can't go wrong. And I think 3 might actually be a lucky number when it comes to coloring, because my next tip is to pick 3 colors to help you shade. And now what do I mean by this? Well, it's actually super simple. So we're going to be coloring in Tanjira's hair with a reddish brown color. So what I did was I picked out 3 colors in that category, and when I turn on the grayscale filter, you can see that each of these colors have a different value. Now this is very important because we want a color that is light, one that is dark, and one that is a transition color that can help us blend between the light and the dark one. So to start it off, I'm going to color in his entire hair section with the lightest color. Now I'm going in with my second color, aka the transition color, to add some shading. And finally, I'm going to grab my darkest color to really emphasize the darkest parts of the shadow. And that's basically it. Since we worked fast and the paper stayed saturated, the colors managed to easily blend into each other, and just like that, the coloring is done and so is the shading. And now it's time for the next tip, which is to understand what different marker nibs are used for. We are currently in 2026 and there are so many markers out there, but let me tell you about the basic OGs. Starting off with the fine nib, it's great for small details and coloring in tiny sections. The chisel nib is great for architectural drawings in my opinion because it's very angular, and it's also amazing for coloring in large spaces. And finally, we have the brush tip marker, which is my personal favorite because it is amazing for blending. Like, I love chisel nibs, I love fine nibs, but brush tips, they are the way to go. They are my personal favorite. As a beginner artist, I didn't have a brush tip marker with me. I actually had a dual-sided one with a chisel nib and a fine nib, and it worked amazingly. But now I like using brush tips because they're super easy to blend. And with that, it's time for some more coloring tips. So my next tip is to use a lot, and I mean a lot, of lines and shapes when you're coloring in fabric. So here's the thing, right? The way I see it, there are 2 ways to go about coloring in fabric. The very first way is very logical. It's very like real life relevant. It's when you actually think about where the lighting is coming from. You think about things like where the wrinkle would be, where the fabric would fold and bend, and where you should place the shadows. And you're very intentional about every single brush stroke, which honestly, mad respect for people who are like that. And I think that a great way to work on this skill would be to use references and study and practice. But here is the thing. I personally feel like I fall under the second category because I just kind of trust the process and go for it. When I'm shading in fabric, I don't really think too much about where the shadows would logically be or where the clothes would logically fold. I literally just use lines and shapes to add in shadows in random places, and then I blend the shadows out to make it look very refined and detailed, and I just trust the process, and by the time we reach the end, the clothes look super cool. It's very abstract, it's not very logical, but it's my style and it works out really well for me. And that's the reason why I've been procrastinating on making a tutorial about how I color in clothes, because honestly, even I can't figure out my process. Anyways, with that, let's move on to the next tip, which is to use a pink or purple shade when you are coloring in the skin. Wait, what? That doesn't make sense, but hold on, just hear me out. So I picked out 3 colors for my skin, a light, a medium, and a dark tone. And the process is super simple. Firstly, I go ahead and I use the lightest marker to color in the base of the skin. Then I grab my middle tone to add some shading. Then I grab my darkest tone to add some really distinct shadows. And finally, I grab my purple marker to go over the shadows and to make them look more saturated. And now the very last step to make everything look blended is to go over everything with that very first marker, aka the lightest color. And by doing that, you can add a very nice hint of purple to the skin, which makes it look more lively and saturated and colorful. Purple or pink definitely work the best. Okay, this is a bonus tip, but I have to say this because as an artist, I have the tendency to start off drawing looking like this, but then eventually my back will just end up looking like, well, that. So to avoid that, make sure you're always taking care of your posture. And here's a bonus tip to my bonus tip. That doesn't make any sense, but my point is, drawing stands also work amazingly, especially if you want to draw at your desk and take care of your posture at the same time. Getting one of those desk easels will definitely help. Oh my gosh, we are almost done, but now it's time for the next section of tips, which is all about sketchbooks. Starting off with the very first tip in this section, which is to use your sketchbook to plan out your drawings. I do this all the time, and this is exactly what I think your sketchbook should be for. It should be a safe place where you can just experiment and draw out your new ideas and just have fun. Just try out a bunch of different things. Now, tip 25 is to go ahead and use your sketchbook to just scribble and loosen up your wrist. Now, let's just take a second to think about it. What do athletes, singers, and dancers all have in common? Well, first of all, they're amazing. But secondly, all of them warm up before they perform their activity. And just like that, it definitely helps to warm up before you draw, to just scribble and loosen your wrist so you really get into the zone and feel more comfortable. And that brings me to tip number 26, which is to make fan art and learn from it. There are so many cool things about fan art. For example, I made fan art of Spy Family the other day, and I love the way I colored in the highlights. And that's something new that I learned. And just like that, try to draw as much fan art as you can because A, it's fun, and B, you can learn so much from the styles of other experienced artists and illustrators. And another important thing is no matter what happens, cherish your sketchbook. Your future self will thank you. And the next thing is really important because this is something that I distinctly remember being annoyed with when I was a beginner artist, and it was the fact that I tried to learn and master everything all at once. I wanted to learn how to draw faces, anatomy, hair, hands, outfits, everything all at once, and I wanted to improve overnight. And that led to nothing but frustration, and I scrunched up so many papers. Which, by the way, do not do that. No matter how frustrated you get, do not scrunch or rip up your artwork. It's really not worth it. Instead, my tip is to take it slowly and learn one thing at a time. Art is a journey, it's not a destination. So enjoy the journey, take it slower, and learn one thing at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself and force yourself to just become like Picasso overnight, because that's not gonna happen. So just be patient with yourself, be a friend and not an enemy. And now it's time for the next tip, which is to use a ballpoint pen to add hatching and texture to your drawing. And doing this is super easy. All you have to do is just grab a ballpoint pen and draw in a couple of lines on your drawing. That way it adds some visual interest, texture, and makes your drawing look super cool. My next tip is to use pencils, specifically a yellow pencil and a purple pencil, to color in the lighting. And this is also super easy. And all you have to do is basically just use the purple pencil to color in the shadows on one side and use the yellow pencil on the other side to shade in any places where the light source might hit the character. And this adds such a fun texture and visual interest as well. And tip number 30 is to use acrylic markers or acrylic paint to add some small details on top of your drawing. Now, since acrylic paint and acrylic markers are opaque, they are perfect to use on top of your drawing after you've done the coloring. And you can add just some details and some highlights, and this also is just a very small detail that goes a long way and makes your drawing just look a lot more interesting overall. And another bonus tip is if you have any metallic markers, now would be the perfect chance to use them. And with that, let's move on to our next tip, which is to use a white gel pen to add highlights. Initially, I didn't understand the point of highlights. I didn't even know that white gel pens existed, but now I'm obsessed with them because adding simple highlights to the eyes, the nose, and the lips really just make the character look so much more lively. Plus, if you accidentally color outside the lines, you can use your gel pen to hide those mistakes as well. And now it's time for my personal favorite tip, which is to use watercolors. Let's say you drew some characters on the page, but they're not exactly in the center and the composition looks a bit off. In that case, I would definitely recommend using some watercolors to just add a fun little colorful background behind the characters, because watercolors are fast and easy to use, they have a fun texture to them, and it also makes the characters look more centered on the page, composition-wise. So it's a win-win. And of course, when you're all done, don't forget to sign off your masterpiece. And my final tip is to fall in love with the process of drawing and creating. Something I wish someone told me before I started to pursue drawing is that once you fall in love with the process of drawing and creating art, you will have a best friend for life. And that is an undeniable truth. You made it this far, you got this. Now go and get creating. And with that, this is Sparkle signing off. Bye!